Thanks for tuning into the Financial Investor channel. My name is Brent. Today we're going to be discussing savings bonds, primarily EE bonds. This will be a two-part series covering EE bonds today in depth, and then tomorrow we'll be covering some I bonds. This is part of the financial sort of an educational thing where we get to learn about different types of investments. And certificate of savings bonds is a lending type investment, which we learned in the what is an investing and different types of investments. So, what is a savings bond? And a savings bond is basically a government or corporation issued bond in exchange for them to borrow money from you. So, the main one that you're going to be using, or if you do buy bonds, they're going to be government issued bonds. And essentially, you're going to be lending your money to the government, meaning that they're borrowing your money in exchange for EE bonds, which are a fixed rate over however long you want to keep them. After 5 years, you could sell them after 1 year, or you can keep them up to 5, and that's probably the best time. Or you can keep them up to 20 or 30 years. So we'll talk about each level and why it might be good to sell at whatever specific level or whatnot. And the reason that the government issues out these savings bonds is that they need funding for roads, schools, dams, or other infrastructure. And sometimes during, say if we go to war, they might need a lot more funds. So they might increase the interest rate to attract people to come in and buy bonds. So if you make your way to treasurydirect.gov, which is where I'm going to get some of the information off of, I'm going to kind of summarize on my website, on my post. I'm going to create my own post and just sort of summarize the main highlights of what we're going to be covering. So of course, both the bonds, but primarily the EE bond that we are covering today, is a safe and reliable, low-risk, government-backed product. So you can supplement your retirement income, meaning that a lot of investors, they might invest 70-80% of their investments into stock market, which are a little bit riskier. Those are the they were the ownership investments, which meaning you actually own a piece of something that is returning capital to you versus you're lending money out and letting others borrow money. And an EE bond is basically a lending investment. So the main pieces that we want to take away from here is that EE bonds earn they earn the same amount of interest for up to 30 years. So no matter what happens to the economy, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, you're getting the same rate of interest for that 30 years. So that's the main piece you want to take, the first main piece. The next one is so savings bonds after 1997 and through 2005 earn an interest that changes every 6 months, a variable rate. So yes, there are some variable rated EE bonds out there, but EE bonds bought before 97 earn interest at a different rates depending on when they were bought. So we already we'll cover that here in just a minute. Interest rates of the current and the past. We'll see that here in just a second. The other second main important piece, as the current interest rate for bonds May 1st through October 31st, 2017 is a rate of 0.10, meaning that this is actually really terrible. My actual credit union that I do my my banking through has an annual rate of 0.15%. So, 0.05% higher, in that there's online savings banks, there's online savings accounts that actually issue out annual rates of 1.0 or higher so for some of those only online savings accounts. Of course, it is taxable at the federal level, not at the state level. There are ways to get around federal income tax, and that's actually up here. We'll click on it real quick and just kind of read it off. This video will take about 10 minutes or less, and hopefully if this information is useful, you guys will click that like and subscribe to the channel, because we'll be putting out additional information on these sort of topics. So the main reason you can get tax exclusions is if the savings bond is in your name, you are a qualified taxpayer, then you are able to exclude from the gross income part or all or part of the interest paid upon the redemption of the EE bond or I bond issued after 1989, and this has to be used for qualified higher education expenses. So say right now you purchase 10 EE bonds for your kid who is currently 3, and you put him in his name, and right now he has 15 years to build up that interest on that bond. While when he wants to go to college, he can actually trade the bonds in. They've accumulated 15 years of interest, and it's been compounding, and he got a couple $1,000s off of it, and now he can go cash those out. And when he goes and uses it for higher education purposes, it gets exempt, either all or part of it. So good thing to note there. If you want to do less risky investments and just have something uh, for them. Let's go back one. And so the next thing to consider isn't too important. It's that the maximum you can purchase per year is $10,000 for each security number. So you have a maximum amount of $10,000 that you can purchase. One main little thing is that you can purchase any amount between $25 and $10,000. So you can actually buy an EE bond for $50.23. Any penny amount, you can buy it between $25 and $10,000. EE bonds earn an interest for up to 30 years if you cash them. So here are some rules. Here are the important rules. You can cash them after 1 year, so you have to hold the bond at least 1 year. Next rule, if you do cash them before 5 years, you lose the last 3 months of interest. For example, if you cash an EE bond after 18 months, you get the first 15 months of interest. And of course, some of this other information here, it's not too important. Let's jump to the other area here. So this is going to have a lot more information. So I'm going to have today, because we're covering the EE bond, I'll have this page on in the description below that you guys can kind of take a look at. And then I'll also have this one, the rates and terms. So this is actually going to have the rates down here at the bottom, and we're going to get to that in just a second. I don't want to make the video too long. We're about 7 minutes, so I have about 3 or so minutes left, and we're going to cover some good information here. So as we know, the annual interest rate for the EE bonds is 0.10, and the main thing is that they earn a fixed interest for up to 30 years. And for the first 20 years, the EE bonds earn the same fixed rate, but here's the important thing here, that they might change the rate or the way the EE bond earns interest for the last 10 years of the bond's 30-year life. Meaning that if you earn that bond, if you held that bond for 20 years and it's at a 0.10%, and the new rate for that specific year is, say, it's a really good year, they increase rates 2.0, they might change your bond from a 0.10 to a 2.0. And the other important thing is that it compounds semi-annually, so twice per year, and I have a demo of that here I'm going to show you. So EE bonds earn an interest for 30 years. We already knew that. The next important thing is that if you bought a paper EE bond at half its, you always buy a paper EE bond at half its face value. For example, I purchased a couple bonds and I paid $50, but the face value of that bond is $100. So you actually get a $100 bond that you paid $50 for. Now, the biggest part of this is you're guaranteed that your EE bond will be at least worth its face value after 20 years. So right here, here's the main key to read, that your Treasury guarantees that the EE bond will be worth at least its face value after the first 20 years. If the EE bond does not double in value, reach its face value as a result of the applying fixed rate of interest for those 20 years, Treasury will make a one-time adjustment at the 20-year anniversary of the bond issue date to make up the difference. So essentially, these two rules sort of combine together. So after 20 years, say you bought a $10,000 savings bond and you held it for 20 years, it's automatically at the 20-year point worth now $20,000. Plus, they will make an adjustment right here. They might make a change to the rate for the remainder of the 10 years. So say you put $10,000 in a savings bond, it earned 0.10. So I have a little example here of a 10-year plan. So you start off with $10,000. It has 0.10%. For the first semi-annually at the end of June, it'll be $10,005. 10,010 at the end of the year, and then next year 10,015, 20, and then so on. At the 10-year mark, you'll be at around, you would have earned about $100 off your initial investment if my math is right. Some of the information wasn't carrying over right, so it might be a little bit off here. But as far as the information goes, yeah, it looks like it should be correct. So 0.10 off of the 7, you're going to be getting $5 and some change here on the side, you can see. So after just 10 years at 0.10, $10,000 is now, you've gained $100. So you're probably not going to gain your full double investment. Actually, for a $10,000 EE bond, you would have paid $5,000, but you can actually pay out $10,000. So this would actually be 20,000. So let's just make it 20,000. And now everything changes. So if you had $20,000 face value bond that you paid $10,000 for, you'd have made $200 after 10 years. But in 20 years, you're guaranteed to have that double, and then they would change the interest rate. So this could actually be a really nice way. Say if you had $10,000 to put down towards an EE bond that you didn't mind holding off and not touching for 20 years. Say you're planning for a kid in the future. You're looking at how much college cost. You saved up $10,000 and you bought a $10,000 EE bond. You're guaranteed in 20 years that that bond that you bought for $10,000 is now going to be worth $20,000 that they can put down for financial, higher education and such. So that'd be a good reason to buy if you wanted to do that route. That is mainly it for the EE bonds. We do have the interest rates for May 2005 through the current year 2017. And of course, I have an example here myself. I have to get rid of just a little bit of information. Let's see here. And then you guys can take a look at that chart right there on the left hand side, and it's going to get rid. You can see that during the recession of 08, the interest rates right here, it went from 1.3 down to 1.7, and then started to tinker up just a little bit, but the recession hit again, well, not really a recession, but the bankings had a really hard time kind of creeping up, and then they fell back down. You can see that steady trend back down, and we're getting an interest rate of 0.10. So here is an example of some of the EE and I bonds that I currently own. The EE bonds, they have a SAT fixed interest, and you can see here that the ones purchased before the 2000 crash in this 96, 94 area have a 4.0 for those 93, 94. In the 96 area, we had 1.12. So this is previous to the 2000 crash. After the 2000 crash, it kind of picked back up 3.7s, and then right here let's see here. Right here we had a 04-2008 that it was issued out. It was 3.0, and then in May of 2008 they went down to 1.4, and it just started to tinker down, and eventually got to the point where some of the later ones in 2010, you can see that the interest rates were well below what the normal was of like 4.0. So I stopped buying into interest rates or savings bonds. And you can see, we'll cover this in another video. We'll do like the flow between 2014, I think is this one, 2015 is this one. You can see the interest is 49, 2016 is 57, 2017 is 62. So it compounds pretty good throughout the years. You can see the nice increase. But we'll cover that in another video. We'll go in depth. Of course, this is the video for EE bonds, and hopefully you guys have kind of found it useful. I think it's important to talk about EE bonds and how they can be useful to purchasing. I think they're good for if you're an adult and you're purchasing it for your child to use for college or higher education later on in life. The EE bonds are nice because they do double in 20 years. So if you're considering having kids in the next 2 years, by the time they're 18, that would be 20 years where they could cash out, a doubled savings bond. So I think that's pretty useful. So I want to thank everyone for watching up until this point, and if you liked the video, hit that like button, and please remember to subscribe by hitting the button on the right hand side for future financial videos. There's also a button on the bottom. And my resource page does have a bunch of free stock tools. I'll try and get this blog post with some of the important information that's good to know for EE bonds on my website, so you guys can just sort of skim that and pull the information that's really important. And then if you do have any questions on bonds or anything, go ahead and leave that in the comments below. I'm invested in EE bonds and I bonds myself, so I've been using them for quite a while. While I don't do them anymore, as of I think 2014 was the last one that I purchased, 2010, I do consider them semi-safe, and they're pretty decent route to go in the long term, as a supplement investment, supplement your retirement income. Not completely, they're not used to completely for your retirement income. That is it. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.